Hi, welcome to our first episode of Split Decisions MMA. I'm your host, Chevy Houser.
I'm your co-host, James Welch.
We're going to get right into it here with the first fight. We got Jacob Kilbourne versus Austin Lingo. Jacob Kilbourne is fighting out of Harris Holt Combat Sports, and Austin Lingo is fighting out of Fortis MMA. James, what do you think about this fight?
I think the line is very close on this fight, and that does not reflect the stats I've seen. Austin Lingo came into the UFC and lost his debut to Yusuf Zalal. Favored in his debut, actually. Zalal cut the distance and outstruck him, also beat him on the ground. Ended up losing a unanimous decision. His opponent, Jacob Kilbourne, 8-3 overall, 0-1 in the UFC as well. Lost to Billy Q in his first fight. Got outstruck 139 strikes to 6, and was actually ended in a submission. Primarily a striker. I don't see much of a chance of him against Austin Lingo, if I'm going to be honest. Austin Lingo hasn't fought out of Texas before, but I don't think it'll be a concern. He's got heavy hands, and he's not worried about hitting the mat.
And Vegas, it looks like they are pretty heavy on Lingo, too. They have a minus 230 favorite in this fight against Jacob Kilbourne. Your better odds here, Fox bet for this fight. He's got a takedown accuracy of 100% also. That's something to look into. He might take it to the ground here. He's a very good ground fighter. So
I fully expect Lingo to bring this one to the ground.
So we're both on Lingo for this fight.
Sounds like it.
All right, moving on to the next fight. We got Sarah Morris versus Vanessa Mello. Now, if you're going to put any money on this fight, you're crazy. But
do not touch this one, especially the parlay.
What do you think about this one, James?
Well, there's a lot to say. Sarah Morris is coming in with a 6-7 record, 2-5 in the UFC. She has fought much better competition, namely Puna, Andrade, Evan Smith, and most recently Eubanks. Outstruck and outcontrolled by Eubanks. She didn't have much of a shot in that one. Vanessa Mello, on the other hand, she's 10-8 coming in. She's 0-3 in the UFC. Hasn't fought nearly the competition that Morris has, and she was outstruck and controlled by lesser competition. It's not a great look. Toughest opponent this far has been Aldana, and she did not have a good showing in that fight.
Sarah Morris, she's coming off the Ultimate Fighter with Roxanne Modafferi, and I forget the other name of the chick at the moment, but that was a really stacked Ultimate Fighter.
She definitely needs this win to keep her career going.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the loser of this fight is getting cut from the UFC.
The only thing I see is Sarah Morris is definitely could go out there with a wrestling game plan, and the only thing I can say for Vanessa Mello is her takedown defense is at 69%, which is pretty impressive. And she's got a good body type to not get taken down. It's just, can she do it for 15 minutes?
That might actually give the strength of Vanessa Mello might give Sarah Morris a problem because she looks like the bigger of the two. But once Vanessa Mello's on the back, she's just like she stays there. She don't do nothing, you know. So I'm gonna go with Sarah Morris in this fight. What are you gonna go with?
Believe it or not, I'm going to pick Vanessa Mello. I think she's going to actually cut the cage off and keep Sarah Morris from taking her down. I don't know if she can do it for 15 minutes. It's not my most confident pick, but that's what I'm going with.
All right, we'll move on here to David Zawada versus Ramazan Ameeb.
Great fight.
I don't know what to say here to begin with because I was going to say I want to go with Ameeb here, but I have a feeling that Zawada is going to pull off a crazy submission here again like he did at Khabib's cousin. I don't know. What do you think?
That's a definite possibility. I'd wait to see what the prop bets would be on that situation. I think Ameeb's going to come in and control him. He's just got that style to him. I really don't see Zawada being able to create distance with his striking or defend takedowns against Ameeb. I think we're going to see another decision win for Ameeb, and I'm pretty confident on that one.
Yeah, in Zawada's last fight, he got caught with a few jabs, and he was really affected by Khabib's cousin. And he's not really known for boxing, so if Ameeb can come in here and just throw a few 3 punches to get in a takedown and not get submitted and just ride it out for 3 rounds, he's probably going to have an easy decision.
That's true, and David Zawada actually averages just over 3 submission attempts per fight, which could go your way.
Yeah, that's why I'm pretty hype on the submission, but that's the only way he's winning this fight. He's not going to win by decision. There's no way. I don't see it happen.
No, I just have the control of Ameeb just too much.
Yeah. So we're split on this one. You're going to go with Ameeb.
I'm going with Ameeb.
I think Zawada's got it. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Moving on to Nick Letts versus Mike Grundy. So Looking here at Tapology, we got a fight at featherweight. Mike Grundy in his last 5 fights is 4-1, and Nick Lentz in his last 5 fights is 2-3. What do you have to say about this one?
It's a tough one to call. It's definitely not one I would throw the bank on. Grundy is an up-and-coming fighter, a prospect. He's shown that, and Nick Lentz has shown brilliance in his fights too, but it's just over a much longer period of time. He's a much more seasoned veteran up against a prospect, which they're probably on the same experience level. Grundy would be a huge favorite, but the experience of Nick Lentz is just, it's going to give Mike Grundy issues. It's just how much.
Do you think that Lentz is going to be able to get to the ground? Because Mike Grundy seems to be a pretty good defensive wrestler as well.
I think Mike Grundy is going to control, or at least attempt to control, the grappling exchange in every round of the fight. I think that Nick Lentz could come up with something tricky on bottom, maybe a submission or something, kind of like the Jim Miller, Robert Roosevelt submission. Just pull something out of the hat, something all the veterans use.
I think it's worth noting too, Nick Lentz is fighting out of American Top Team. He's got a lot of people over there to work with. Mike Grundy, I don't know much about Team Combined Liverpool, but
he trains with Darren Till and those guys out there. I just remember his last fight when he fought against Evliev. Evliev was on a roll, and Mike Grundy got demolished in that fight, but he kept coming. He got his nose broken and was still able to secure 6 takedowns against Evliev. And
that fight wasn't too long ago either.
No. And I think he's coming back off that, and he needs this win. I am picking Grundy in this one.
Yeah, I'm with you on this one too. I like Mike Grundy. Just the last 5 fights for Nick Lentz, he's looking like he's on a decline. He's getting old.
Agreed. Even though the competition's there, those are tough guys out there.
36 years old. That's starting to get old.
Charles Albert, everybody knows what he's about.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on here to Carlos Felipe and Justin Taffle. And me personally, I'm pretty hype on this Felipe guy. He's got the dog in him. He wants to go out there and take your head off, and he'll talk to you while he's in the octagon. So, what do you think about this one?
I'm not sold on him as far as I'd say. I'm hype about him, but I do think he's a more well-rounded fighter in this fight. Justin Taffle is coming in, and he's been one of those guys who's actually been on pay-per-views and only has a 4-1 record at this point now. So actually, on his first pay-per-view, I believe he was 3-0. So that's pretty crazy. He's coming off his debut was a loss to Castro, who's actually a common opponent between these two, and Carlos Felipe was able to outbox him to a point. He was held up against the fence. It was kind of a boring fight, but he beat him.
He was more active.
Yeah, but De Castro actually caught Taffle with just the perfect shot coming in, and that was nobody saw that coming. I think we had Taffle in that fight if we were picking back then.
Yeah. Both these guys are 4-1 in their past 5 fights. Carlos Felipe, I believe, is the better grappler out of these two.
I agree with that.
And if he can get it to the mat, that could be a big game changer. But I think that he actually has... He doesn't have the knockout power that Tafa has, I don't think. But I think his boxing is more crisp. As long as he doesn't get hit by that big punch, I think Felipe wins this fight.
They're both very good boxers, and I do think it'll come down to if Felipe can control the octagon, which he didn't do up against the fence. So it's going to have to be on the ground. And for Justin Tafa, everybody knows it's just close that distance and land that shot. That could be one.
And I think Felipe has a conditioning advantage in this fight as well.
I'm not confident on this pick, but I'm also going with Carlos Felipe.
All right, good. Moving on to Omari Ahmedabad versus Tom Breeze. Tom Breeze is a newer guy coming up here. Ahmedabad, he just fought Chris Weidman. Didn't look too good. Lost a wrestling match basically to Chris Weidman. What do you think about this fight?
This is a tough one, man, because that Omari Ahmedabad fight, the last one against Chris Weidman, was just tough to watch. It was difficult, man. He was out wrestled in that fight, and come that third round, he was gassed. There is no other way to explain it. The dude's a great wrestler. He's a traditional Sambo fighter, and he's tough as nails. He gasses out against other wrestlers, which I don't think will be a huge problem here against Tom Breeze, who kind of reminds me of Sean Strickland, even though they fought and went to a split decision almost 2 years ago. And since then, Tom Breeze has come back, and you really don't know what you're going to get from him. You know exactly what you're going to get from Omari Ahmedabad, and for that reason alone, I'm going to have to go with Omari Ahmedabad. I'm not confident on that pick. I don't like going with him just after that last Weidman fight, but we'll see.
I think he's going to look at this more of a comeback, try to rebound off of the last loss he just had. But another interesting thing is these guys are ranked pretty far apart. Tom Breeze is number 34 at middleweight, and you got Akhmedov at 14th.
That is a big gap.
It's a pretty big gap, and the odds are pretty close, which is pretty crazy. And Akhmedov is actually the underdog in this fight.
Wow, really?
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, near you.
So I was going to go against Akhmedov, but I think I'm going to take Akhmedov just because he's the better all-around fighter.
I agree. More well-rounded. He's just... I don't see a finish, but... Yeah.
This is coming up your next fight here. We got Wu Yanyan. I don't know how to pronounce it. Wu Yanan.
Wu Yanan.
Yeah, versus Jocelyn Edwards. Somebody you're pretty hype on?
I am hype on Jocelyn Edwards. 9-2, 0-0 in the UFC, making her debut on short notice. This is actually supposed to be Beth Korea fighting here. And from what I've seen, I've looked back at her regional fights against Tim Means' wife, and she was able to control the distance, land strikes, and when it did go to the ground, she got the finish. I'm very hype on this fight. Wu Yanan has fought better competition. She's currently 1-2 in the UFC, and her last fight was a toss-up. I don't know if I would agree with the decision. Overall, this is a hard one to pick, but I'm definitely going with Jocelyn Edwards.
Yeah, I think if you're going to go with Jocelyn Edwards, you can either do a live bet, because I think she's going to lose the first round. Because I've seen Yanan fight before. She's pretty high pace.
Mm.
And
she does have one win by submission, although not call her a ground expert by any means. I don't think that she has an advantage on the ground.
I don't think she'll have the strength advantage in this fight either.
Mm.
But if you're looking to put a parlay together, you could probably put Edwards and Akhmedov. If they're both underdogs, that's a good parlay, I think, to take.
Agreed.
I mean, that's money right there.
I'd also have Vanessa Mello, but
yeah, I don't want to throw Vanessa Mello in there. But I'm gonna go with Jocelyn Edwards as well. Also, she trains with Shevchenko, so that's
always plus.
That's a plus. All right, so our main prelim here on the card, we got Phil Hawes fighting out of Hard Knocks 365, fighting Nazardine Imevov, fighting out of MMA Factory. Phil Hawes coming off the Contender Series in that last fight where he just knocked out Malkoon. What do you got?
Man, that was a crazy fight. Everybody was hype on Malkoon going into that fight. He trains with Robert Whitaker. They fight in the same weight class. He was undefeated. He's got some crazy jiu-jitsu, and that was just what a showing from Phil Hawes. To say about Imavov, he is 9-2, 1-0 in the UFC. His one win is over Jay Williams, who is guy that got slam knocked out by Holland. Remember that? Before Holland went over and talked shit to Izzy. I think Philip Hawes definitely has the power advantage in this fight. Imavov might be the more rounded fighter, and if the striking doesn't go well, he could be able to hit the mat and have some success there. He's very elusive, but we've seen what happens when people get hit by Philip Hawes.
I think that this is going to be like Chaos Williams kind of situation where he hasn't found that guy that's going to beat him yet like Ferrer did, but I think Phil Hawes is going to starch him. I think he's going to come out there and hit him with that right hand, and it's going to be over. I think they're trying to build this guy up yet, and he hasn't ran into that guy that is going to take him out yet.
Absolutely.
He's not. I don't think he's top 10 worthy yet, but he's definitely going to beat Imavov.
He's a scary guy, and he's older. He's up there in age, but if he wants to make a run, he's got to do it now.
Yeah, this is his last run. This is his last chance, so I'm on Hawes.
We'll go with Hawes as well.
All right, let's go into our next fight. We got Puna Heli Soriano versus Dusko Torovic. Torovic has some serious power. What do you think?
Well, both guys are undefeated and undefeated in the UFC. We want to win each. Soriano is a wild southpaw. He's got some crazy power, throws some looping hooks. His cardio is a question mark though, so I'm not sure about that. I like Dusko a lot. Dude's 10-0, 1-0 in the UFC, even though his win is over DeClown Townsend, which is not the greatest win. Still a UFC win, and he dominated. His key to victory is his movement. His movement is going to get him the job done here, and the way he blends his striking and wrestling together It's going to be too much for Soriano in the later rounds. At least that's what I think. What do you think, Chad?
I think if Dusko gets him up against the cage, he's got some nasty elbows. I've seen him. He's gonna have some nasty elbows. If he can get him up against the cage, it's over instantly, I think. But I think that Soriano can cause some problems with his movement.
Absolutely.
But I don't think he's gonna be able to pull off this victory here.
Early on, it's definitely it's a tricky one. It's gonna be one of those nail-biting fights in the first round.
I don't think you should put the house on Dusko, if that's what you're saying. But I think that he's gonna win this fight. He's got the reach advantage. If you look at his significant strikes landed per minute, he's got nearly a +4 advantage on Soriano. That's crazy. This dude throws 8 significant strikes a minute.
That is wild.
That's a crazy output. And you were saying about Soriano's conditioning, that could be a problem right there.
If Soriano's cardio is there, though, we could be looking at a possible fight of the night.
Yeah, this could be the split decision of the night, to be honest.
Yeah, that could be great.
But I don't think it's going to be. I think Dusko starches him.
I'm going to go with Dusko, too.
All right, going on here, we got Joaquin Buckley versus Alessio Di Chero. And this here is a let's give the guy on the rise a fight. What do you think?
The UFC is setting up Joaquin Buckley. Dude is 12-3, 2-1 in the UFC, but let's be honest, he wasn't ready for that fight against Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland is what he is, and look at him, he's top 5 in the division now after 1 year, male fighter of the year last year, so nothing to take away from Buckley. And then he had that highlight reel knockout, which just has everybody talking. I'm almost tired of seeing it, actually. But he actually came back after that to fight an undefeated prospect in Jordan Wright, who I was questionable about because of his competition beforehand. But Buckley went in there and tore him apart. I wasn't surprised, but the way he did it just raises his stock this much. There's not much you could say about Alessio Di Chero in this fight as much as he's just on a 3-fight losing streak, and he's very hittable. It's the one statistic that really makes you wonder why they would match him up against Buckley and actually expect him to win. And Buckley hits so hard.
He's lost his last 3 fights. He's probably on his way out here soon. If he's not going to be out of the UFC after this fight, but he's definitely on the way out. I think that Buckley's going to starch him. Probably a good pick for a lineup if you're going to put a lineup together. Maybe even MVP. I don't know if you want to put him into the MVP because it might be over too quick. You want to kind of get somebody that has some more rounds and then a knockout, but I think Buckley's going to take his head off.
It may take a round or two, but I think he'll figure him out, and yep, he'll get the fight finished by knockout.
So we're both on Buckley. Moving on here, we got Santiago Ponzinio versus Li Jinglang. So Ponzinio hasn't fought in a little bit.
2 years, actually, yeah.
I still say he's the better fighter here. What do you think?
I have been waiting for Ponzinio's return for a while now. And a lot of people question people that have been out for as long as he has. But it's not your normal injuries. He's actually had blood infection issues. He had staph infection and a hand injury that took him out of a fight with Kamaru Usman back in the day, which would have been wild knowing what we know now about Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, I mean, just think about what fights open up if he wins this fight. Who could you match? You can match him up against anybody.
And even that, their last opponent for both of these guys, being that Ponzinio hasn't fought in 2 years, is actually the same guy. Neil Magny is the last guy both of these guys fought. Li Jinglang currently just lost a decision to him. And back before Ponzinio's lengthy injury, he finished him by knockout, actually. That is when Ponzinio was on the way up. He's still on a 7-fight win streak. He's fast. He hits hard. He's got some crazy calf kicks. I'm going all the way Ponzinio. I've been waiting for this, and he's going to show everybody he's still there.
Yeah, I think he might have a little bit of ring rust. It might take a little bit, but I think Ponzinio comes out and wins this fight. It's going to be a pretty fun fight, too, in my opinion.
No, absolutely. Li Jinglang comes at you. He makes everything fun.
Pretty high output.
And with the speed and the striking IQ of Ponzinio, I think he's going to catch him coming in.
Yeah, I think Ponzinio wins this fight. Moving on here, we got 2 legends of the sport. We got Matt Brown versus Carlos Conduit.
In our co-main event of the evening.
Carlos Conduit's looking to put a run here together. What do you think?
I disagree. I think later in their careers, but first of all, when I started watching the UFC, these were the guys that were up at the top there. They were fighting the best of the best, kind of fighting GSP, and it's awesome to see what these guys have come through. The fact that these guys are still around is amazing, but their last fights, I put a lot more on what Matt Brown has done. He's fought two guys where he was probably expected to win. Diego Sanchez, I mean, he's gonna win that fight, but that was a highlight worth getting out there. He's 2-3 in his last 5. His last fight was a knockout loss to Bazad, who's coming in hot. He just had a knockout one of his own since then, and I think he showed a little bit. He's still there in that fight. I honestly think that his toughness is still there. That's always what made Matt Brown, and it's still there. Why are you going with Conduit?
I just think Conduit's gonna be able to keep the range, and I think he might be just a better overall fighter, to be honest. And he's coming off a win. He's looking to come back. I like Conduit. I don't know what's telling me to pick Conduit in this fight. I just don't think Matt Brown. I think Matt Brown's toughness is gonna make Conduit look better.
I agree, because I think that Matt Brown will play into Conduit's game.
Yeah.
It's just if Conduit can land crisp shots, because I think Matt Brown's going to be there the whole time. He doesn't do well, that Carlos Conduit, that is, in ground and grappling exchanges. Like a lot of grapple-heavy fighters have had their way against him. I do not think we're going to see that out of Matt Brown. I think it's going to be a kickboxing match. It's going to be fun to watch.
I was going to say, and Conduit used a lot of leg kicks late in his last fight. I think I like Conduit for that reason. What are you thinking?
I'm going with Matt Brown.
So we're going to go disagree on that one, and we might. All right, so here we go with our main event of the evening, ladies and gentlemen. We got Calvin Keator versus Max Holloway.
Man, is this a good one.
I think that Calvin Keator is going to have to play this one smart if he's going to pull off the upset. I like Calvin Keator in this fight because he resembles the Dustin Poirier fight, where he's going to be hitting harder, but definitely isn't the faster fighter and the volume fighter out of this. But I think he's going to catch Holloway, and those MMA years are going to catch up to him. What do you think?
I'm all Max all day. The best is blessed. He's spent all the time in the UFC from an early age at the top of the division. His pressure is legendary. His cardio is legendary. His strike rate is legendary. And he's just, I think I give him the slightly better odds on the feet. I think he's going to be able to avoid those big shots and just keep it too close. I am worried about those elbows from Keator.
The crazy thing is, Keator's more of a boxer than Holloway, but Holloway might be the better boxer of the two of them. That's how good he is. Keator's got the reach advantage, and if he can keep it at reach and hit those shots and try to cut the cage off on Holloway, he's pretty good at cutting the cage off. He doesn't come straight in on you like most people that Holloway fights. Holloway's got to push the pace. Cardio might be a problem for Keator, but I'm not worried about it. His training partner was Rob Font. You see what he did against Marlon Moraes.
That's true. That New England cartel's coming in hot.
Yeah, I think Keator's a live dog in this one.
I like Max a lot. I just over the years watching him fight, I like his style. I like how he matches up against Calvin Keator. I think he matches up better than he did against Volkanovski, and I think that he beat Volkanovski. To be honest, I think Max Holloway is still our featherweight champ here, and it's going to be tough to give him another shot against Volkanovski, even if he wins this fight. But I just see him being able to keep the pressure and just make this his fight. I think that it's gonna come down to grit. It's definitely going to be a 5-round fight, I believe. And he'll probably have to weather some storms early and late in the fight from Calvin Keator. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in the 4th and 5th round of this fight.
So you're on Holloway, I'm on Keator.
All day.
I think it's a pretty good spot for a live dog if you want to put some money on him. Go with it, and that's probably the split decision tonight too.
It could be. It definitely could be. I could see that one going to split decision, but man, is that scary for Max fans.
Yeah. Well, we hope to see you next time. Make sure you hit a like on the button, like on the video, subscribe. You'll get our videos. This is our first time, so it'll get better as we go. Promise.
Peace out.